In Southern and Central Croatia, there are numerous necropoli with ancient megalithic tombstones called Stećci. They are part of a unique funerary culture which developed on the territory of present-day Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, southwestern Serbia, and northwestern Montenegro. These monuments vary in size, shape, and ornamentation, from simple megalithic stone slabs to huge monoliths. Since their earliest explicit mentions by 16th century scholars and explorers to modern-day scientists, people have been fascinated by them. Theories of their origin and purpose varied, from theories about the Stećci being ancient prehistoric tombstones of indigenous people, to them being created by Kršćani, a unique form of Christianity which developed in medieval Bosnia and parts of Croatia. If we want to understand what these mysterious monuments are, we have to look at the context, where they are located ad situ, in the terrain. A stećak or bilig is a megalithic tombstone. The primary function of a stećak is to mark a location of a grave. Stećci are often located alongside roads, on hilltops overlooking fertile karst fields and grazelands, and in the vicinity of prehistoric hill forts and settlements called gradine. Also, some Stećci are found near or even on top of prehistoric burial mounds called gomile. Ethnographic and archaeological evidence suggests that many of these locations could have been tribal and family graveyards. Each tribe or community had its sacred burial grounds, a necropolis marked by one or more stećak tombstones. Originally, these burial grounds were once places of ancestral worship and funerary rites, which could have included offerings in the form of food and libations, circle dancing, and ritual games held in honor of the deceased. There are known examples of Stećci which are cenotaphs, monuments commemorating the deceased, but with no grave or remains buried underneath. Others had multiple successive burials and massive stone sarcophagi buried underneath. Many of these sites are commonplace in local stories and legends and are often surrounded by strict taboos. Local stories attribute Stećci to a mysterious people called Grci or Stari narod. According to legend, this entire race suddenly vanished, migrated, or died out after a large flood or a long winter lasting 7 years, leaving behind them only their tombs, ruined hill forts, and hidden treasures, and one lone princess, cursed and transformed into a serpent to guard the treasure until someone would arrive and lift the spell. It was strictly forbidden to move or harm a stećak, and for centuries, the local communities acted as guardians and custodians of these monuments. Local stories often recount hailstorm or unnatural wind and thunder occurring when these monuments were desecrated or destroyed. Certain stećak tombstones, attributed to holy men and women, were sites of pilgrimage and worship. Pilgrims would scrape the stones for rock dust, which was considered to have healing properties. Some stories portray Stećci as animate, sentient things imbued with magical properties, emitting light or sound, and even with the ability to move during nighttime only to return to their place at break of day. In other stories, Stećci act as portals, gateways to another realm or dimension. A common motif in many Indo-European cultures, this realm is characterized by a different passage of time. Stories recount unsuspecting travelers entering this realm by accident or curiosity, only to return home moments or hours later and witness that in fact many years have passed. The majority of Stećci are devoid of ornamentation. Amongst those that are decorated, we find hundreds of different symbols. From the most common ones, crescent moon and stars, swords, lilies, human and anthropomorphic figures, fantastic creatures and architectural motifs, to crosses of all kinds. Some, more complex scenes, depict circle dances, astral motifs, the ascension and voyage of the soul. Others resemble motifs found on ancient art, such as swastikas and ankh symbols, human figures in the worshipper or oranto pose, and depictions of a female figure surrounded by animals or horse riders, resembling the iconography of Potnia Theron, an ancient female divinity associated with animals. The meaning of these symbols, scenes, and depictions are still discussed among historians. For example, the depiction of the hunt for the stag, a common motif on Stećci, can be interpreted both literally, as a scene from everyday life, and allegorically, where the stag is a psychopomp, a guide between worlds, leading the soul of the deceased to the afterlife. Written inscriptions on Stećci are rare. They are almost exclusively written using a special Western form of Cyrillic script used only in medieval Bosnia and Croatia. These short inscriptions, epitaphs, offer information about the deceased, often proudly stating that the deceased or his monument lie na plemenitom, na svomu, on his own noble lands. The language used is a mixture of medieval legal terminology, poetry, and Church Slavonic literary tradition, and represents evidence of a highly developed knightly culture. There are some 70,000 Stećci in existence, majority of them weighing several tons, and the heaviest approximately weighing a staggering 32 tons. Also, previously unknown necropoli are still being discovered. Since in the past, many of these monuments were destroyed, the stone recycled and reused as building material for the construction of churches, houses, and roads, the total number of Stećci could have numbered up to 100,000. The majority of archaeologists and historians agree that these monuments were erected during the late Middle Ages, from the 12th until the 16th century. Still, the sheer number and size of these monuments, the diversity of ornamentation, lack of inscriptions, findings of multiple successive burials underneath one stečak, and the fact that many Stećci are located on top of prehistoric burial mounds pose a mystery for future generations of explorers, opening up a possibility that the form of the Stećci evolved continually since prehistory and antiquity until the late Middle Ages. To validate any of these theses, in spite of the tremendous effort and work done by generations of archaeologists, researchers, and enthusiasts, more archaeological research is required, since only a small percentage of necropoli has been systematically researched. To conclude, these ancient monuments still pose a mystery whose solving requires an interdisciplinary approach and collaboration between scientists of different fields, enthusiasts, and local communities.